Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you are going to miss it. What is to give light must endure burning. An abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation is normal behavior. The one thing you can't take away from me is the way I choose to respond to what you do to me. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. If there is meaning in life at all, then there must be meaning in suffering. I do not forget any good deed done to me, and I do not carry a grudge for a bad one. Man does not simply exist, but always decides what his existence will be, what he will become the next moment. Our greatest freedom is the freedom to choose our attitude. I recommend that the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast be supplemented by a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. It is not freedom from conditions, but it is freedom to take a stand toward the conditions. The world is in a bad state, but everything will become still worse unless each of us does his best. There are things which must cause you to lose your reason, or you have none to lose. Success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue, and it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself. But there was no need to be ashamed of tears, for tears bore witness that a man had the greatest of courage, the courage to suffer. Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. No one can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being unless he loves him. Ultimately, man should not ask what the meaning of his life is, but rather must recognize that it is he who is asked. In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning, such as the meaning of a sacrifice. So live as if you were living already for the second time, and as if you had acted the first time as wrongly as you are about to act now. No man should judge unless he asks himself, in absolute honesty, whether in a similar situation, he might not have done the same. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It did not really matter what we expected from life, but rather what life expected from us. We needed to stop asking about the meaning of life, and instead to think of ourselves as those who were being questioned by life. Life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answer to its problems, and to fulfill the tasks which it constantly sets for each individual. Suffering completely fills the human soul and conscious mind, no matter whether the suffering is great or little. Therefore, the size of human suffering is absolutely relative. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Love goes very far beyond the physical person of the beloved. It finds its deepest meaning in his spiritual being, his inner self. Whether or not he is actually present, whether or not he is still alive at all, ceases somehow to be of importance. Forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess, except one thing: your freedom to choose how you will respond to the situation. A man who becomes conscious of the responsibility he bears toward a human being who affectionately waits for him, or to an unfinished work, will never be able to throw away his life. He knows the why for his existence, and will be able to bear almost anyhow. The true meaning of life is to be discovered in the world, rather than within man or his own psyche, as though it were a closed system. Being human always points and is directed to something or someone other than oneself, be it a meaning to fulfill or another human being to encounter. The more one forgets himself by giving himself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he is, and the more he actualizes himself. Today's society is characterized by achievement orientation, and, consequently, it adores people who are successful and happy and, in particular, it adores the young. It virtually ignores the value of all those who are otherwise, and in so doing, blurs the decisive difference between being valuable in the sense of dignity and being valuable in the sense of usefulness. A human being is not one thing among others. Things determine each other, but man is ultimately self-determining. What he becomes, within the limits of endowment and environment, he is made out of himself. We watched and witnessed some of our comrades behave like swine, while others behaved like saints. Man has both potentialities within himself. Which one is actualized depends on decisions, but not on conditions. What is demanded of man is not, as some existential philosophers teach, to endure the meaninglessness of life, but, rather, to bear his incapacity to grasp its unconditional meaningfulness in rational terms. Everyone has his own specific vocation or mission in life. Everyone must carry out a concrete assignment that demands fulfillment. Everyone's task is unique, as is his specific opportunity to implement it. The attempt To develop a sense of humor, and to see things in a humorous light, is some kind of a trick, learned while mastering the art of living. A man's concern, even his despair, over the worthwhileness of life, is an existential distress, but, by no means, a mental disease. It is well known that humor, more than anything else in the human makeup, can afford an aloofness and an ability to rise above any situation, even if only for a few seconds. We cannot, after all, judge a biography by its length, by the number of pages in it. We must judge by the richness of the contents. Sometimes, the unfinished are among the most beautiful symphonies. When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather, the striving and struggling for some goal worthy of him. What he needs is not the discharge of tension at any cost, but the call of a potential meaning waiting to be fulfilled by him. If there is meaning in life at all, then there must be a meaning in suffering. Suffering is an ineradicable part of life, even as fate and death. Without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete. Man is originally characterized by his search for meaning, rather than his search for himself. Sunday neurosis is a kind of depression which afflicts people who become aware of the lack of content in their lives when the rush of the busy week is over and the void within themselves becomes manifest. Pleasure is, and must remain, a side effect, or byproduct, and is destroyed and spoiled to the degree to which it is made a goal in itself. Man's search for meaning may arouse inner tension, rather than inner equilibrium. However, precisely such tension is an indispensable prerequisite of mental health. There is nothing in the world, I venture to say, that would so effectively help one to survive, even the worst conditions, as the knowledge that there is a meaning in one's life. Our generation is realistic, for we have come to know man as he really is. After all, man is that being who invented the gas chambers of Auschwitz. However, he is also that being who entered those gas chambers upright. At the beginning of human history, man lost some of the basic animal instincts, in which an animal's behavior is embedded, and by which it is secured. Such security, like paradise, is closed to man forever. Man has to make choices. Love is the ultimate and the highest goal to which a man can aspire. The salvation of human is through love, and in love. A man who has nothing left in this world still may know bliss, be it only for the brief moment, in the contemplation of his beloved. Human kindness can be found in all groups, even those which as a whole it would be easy to condemn. Fear makes come true that which one is afraid of. Since Auschwitz, we know what man is capable of. And since Hiroshima, we know what is at stake. Mental health is based on a certain degree of tension. The tension between what one has already achieved and what one still ought to accomplish, or the gap between what one is and what one should become. Such a tension is inherent in the human being, and therefore is indispensable to mental well-being. Thank you for watching, and for supporting us.